It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Wednesday, January 24th. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that hates to lose another game on the same day we lose Carter Hart.
I may never go to a 7-Eleven ever again.
Oh my God. All right. We are going to get into what happened with Carter Hart, the loss to the Lightning. We're going to talk about what's next for Bobby Brink and answer your mailbag questions all on today's show.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology, coming to you from the Wells Fargo Center. We are at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. You can find us over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, of course, the big news of the day yesterday, Carter Hart was put on indefinite leave from his request. The official statement from the Flyers read, Carter Hart has requested and has been granted an indefinite leave of absence, citing personal reasons. The club will have no further comment at this time.
Well, I mean, Danny Briere is going to have a press conference. We'll see how that goes. I think the team was affected. I think that was why you didn't see much out of them early. I think there was sort of like they're feeling bad, like they're human beings. They just, I think there was a part of that. And I think it took them a little while to kind of get going, get challenged, whatever the terminology is.
Right. So the Flyers did call up Cal Peterson to be backup to Sam Ersson in this game. I don't imagine Peterson will get into any of the games before the All-Star break. But I do think it's important to notice the difference in what, the coaches might do with Peterson as backup versus Ersson and Hart as your tandem.
Yeah, I think, in this game, there might have been a chance Ersson would have gotten pulled if Hart was there, but there's no Hart, so there's no way they were going to put Peterson in. And that's just, again, he wasn't playing a horrible game. I mean, the Flyers were playing bad early. Look, we talked about it. You put Tampa on the power play, you're asking for trouble. Like, that's just the way it is. Everybody in the league knows it. So, but I do think now the goalie strategy has changed until Carter Hart comes back. There's no question. And I think, running into the break, you're not going to see Peterson.
No, I don't think so. In the meantime, Olle Lycksell got into the game and Nick Deslauriers sat again, despite them still using the 11-7. And I think that, good for Olle getting in the game. I think he actually played okay. Like, I think he did well overall. I think he made some heads up plays. I don't think he was like the brightest star out there for sure, but I do think that he played pretty well considering, the whirlwind of it all.
Right. I mean, I lost track of his minutes. Maybe he had like 9 minutes, but he wasn't bad. He did one pass that was like between the legs that didn't succeed, but I thought he looked fine. And yeah, he wasn't. Again, it's hard to, come up and have an instant impact. It just is. Mm-hmm. And so if they give him these games, maybe by, the third game, they might start getting an impact if he can get at least 10 minutes a game. So we'll see. But, the 11-7, it's lost 3 in a row now. They got out 11-7 by Tampa because they happen to be really shorthanded. And it's interesting because I just felt like, there's no question some of these guys are getting tired. Konechny especially. He's less and less effective. And it was also a situation where Travis Sanheim was well over 20 minutes, And it's like you're playing 7D and he's over 20 minutes. That means you're not even playing all your D even close to equally, which is, again, just weird that they want to run this way. And they might run this way through the break, which I think, I don't know. I wouldn't do it. I understand you're trying to get every last bit out of these guys before the break, but man, I just wouldn't do it.
Well, interestingly, Travis Konechny had the most ice time in this game at 22 minutes and 42
It's
seconds.
too much.
Travis Sanheim was in second place in minutes with 22:13. So two of them about 30 seconds apart from each other, but both of them, I think, got too much ice time. And your
Yeah.
point about the 11-7 and Sanheim playing that many minutes, of course, stands. But yeah, I think that, something's got to give here with this 11-7. And it felt so much like that game against the Avs where
Yes.
they fell behind, they fought to come back. And like, again, you love to see that.
Mhm.
It made it enjoyable. I mean, the fight was there from start to finish.
Absolutely, yeah.
No question. But then, you get within one and then you take a dumb penalty. And of course, Tampa scores on the power play. And it was like deja vu all over again,
Yeah, and the 6-on-5 is a disaster. They can't barely get possession on a 6-on-5, and they have enough players there. I mean, they gave up two pretty quick goals, 6-on-5. I mean, people were rushing for the exits after the second one. They were just like, all right, we like this game. There was some excitement for sure, but, they've got to practice that 6-on-5. It's just not acceptable.
Yeah, I think it looked marginally better than the last time in the first goalie poll. I think that there's a law of diminishing returns here with the second goalie poll
Yeah.
that we've now seen that I just don't see the point in it, to be
Me
honest.
neither.
In a regular season game for this team. But, and I think it's like a little demoralizing more than it helps.
That's what I felt like. It was demoralizing. And I think Kucherov felt good about it because he got his hat trick. He got 4 points.
Right.
Like that was sort of like his revenge because, he was getting hit on a little that game. And, you kind of gave it to him.
Yeah, man, Kucherov. Oof. You got to admit, he's so much fun to watch play.
He is. It's just, he's crazy talented. And Hedman was a factor too, obviously. He was.
Yeah. I do want to talk about the Flyers power play because, they only had two in
Right.
the entire game and they converted on one of them. And, obviously getting Drysdale, his first goal as a Flyer was a really good thing to see. And he looked tremendous for a huge portion of this game. Like he just made an impact and it was really good to see that.
Yeah, he looked good. I'm sure he's feeling better, although he really needs to get a bed. I mean, places will deliver that bed. They'll deliver that bed to you. Like it's not that bad. I'm sure you can get one on a Friday night, but I guess for the break he'll get a bed. But what was
maybe
good,
he wants his bed that was
maybe.
like in transit.
Yeah, maybe. What was good though was the fact that they really were feeding him the puck, and they really should do that more because he has the best shot in the power play, and you are going to convert more than you're not going to convert if you have him shooting. So at least I think they're figuring that part out.
Right, I think so. And I think the other thing is that, other than taking the penalties to force the penalty kill against this, top power play, which was obviously the problem, they did actually, have the right strategy going into this game that we talked about. They blocked more shots than they did in previous games. They had a whole bunch of takeaways in this game. I thought they played the puck along the boards pretty hard, especially when they had that surge in the latter portion of the game. I thought they were digging in the corners well.
Well, there was one thing about the corners. Tampa did some film study because they did not follow Couturier into the corners. They were just like, fine, we'll let you. We know you're going to win the corner battle, and then you're going to try and pass it to the net. We're going to just give you the puck in the corner battle, and we're going to block the net so you can't get that pass out near the net. And that's what they did. And it was smart.
Yeah, it was interesting because I noticed that. And then Couturier kind of changed his MO and started crashing the net himself.
Right.
At that point. It was really funny, actually, to notice that change up. But yeah, I do think that they had an effective game plan here. It just kind of went off the rails when they took some unfortunate penalties.
Yeah, the penalties again. That power play is going to do it. You could just see the skill on the Tampa power play. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, it continues. And up next, we are going to talk about Bobby Brink and his next steps and what he needs to do with the Phantoms. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed just doesn't help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. They leverage over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day. Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Listeners of Locked On Flyers will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked on. That's Indeed.com/locked on right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Flyers. That's Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. On tomorrow's show, we will be previewing the matchup against the Detroit Red Wings and doing a prospect profile of Hunter McDonald, who was a defenseman picked in the 6th round in 2022 by the Flyers and is currently unsigned. Got a little mention from the brass, so we thought we'd check in with him. Just a couple random things before we get to talking about Bobby Brink here. Um, First off, as I have mentioned on the show, my parents are season ticket holders for the Flyers. So whenever they get something of interest, my mother forwards the email to me just so I can stay in the loop on what season ticket holders are hearing. And lo and behold, she sent me an email from yesterday saying that the Flyers will not be raising season ticket holder ticket prices for next season, that they appreciate the patience and they understand, the team has been exciting this year and that's so great, but we're staying the course and sort of as a like stick with us, like continue to stick with us
Right.
measure. They're not raising ticket prices. And I think that's like, A, it's the right move. And B, I think that goes a long way in continuing to build trust in this new administration.
Yeah, it's definitely something that fans will appreciate. Anytime you can tell them they're not going up, that's a good thing. So now that's good. It's good public relations. No way around it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thrilled for my parents and all of the other season ticket holders out there that they're not going to be facing a price increase. Um, Talking about Bobby Brink here, we didn't get a chance to talk about this on the show yesterday because the move happened literally right after we finished recording, which is always the case,
Yep.
as
It's
it
a plan.
seems. Yeah. But I think it's important because of what we talked about with the Phantoms in general on yesterday's show, and that they're kind of at this breaking point, and like, what do we do here to turn things around, and what's the right move? And we talked about, do you call people up? Like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, this is actually helpful for the Phantoms, not just for Bobby Brink here, because I think this will infuse a little bit of energy in the sense that I think Bobby Brink has been told what he needs to do, and he's going to want to get back up to the Flyers.
Well, I mean, look, John Tortorella told everybody today too. That's not a big deal, and he definitely will be an asset to the Phantoms, and will definitely help them. That'll give them. The issue is we're now just seeing just two guys trading places all the time, getting called up, with the exception, the occasional exception, but that person never plays anyhow. So it's like really you're just talking like, and that's Rhett Gardner. You're just talking about these two guys. They're the only two that get called up. That's not great.
So I think that the Lycksell side of it is an issue, and again, it's the 11-7 discussion. We've had it.
They're going to keep
Obviously,
having it. He
yeah.
keeps using it.
Right. And, we are recording this portion of the show before the game, so against Tampa. So, we don't have the benefit of hindsight on that front at this moment in time. But if it continues to be unsuccessful, it's going to be brought up more and more and more. And, obviously we'll see what happens against Tampa and
Right.
what they decide to do moving forward. But as far as like Bobby Brink, for himself and what he needs to do to get back up to the Flyers, I think obviously, top of mind is scoring because he was doing fine. And if you look at his overall stats on average for the season to this point, it looks fine, but it's deceiving because, Torts is right. He hasn't been getting points on the board as much recently. If you look at
Okay.
his game log.
I mean, that's fair. But he's not the only one. There's plenty of
Correct.
others that you could point to for that. I mean, Tyson Forster is the other, but he's a bigger body and he occasionally hits people, so he's going to get the benefit of the doubt. But Tyson Forster's only got 18 points and 7 goals. It's not like he's ripping it up. And I'm not saying he should be sent down either. What I'm saying is John's points had validity, but I don't like when a coach divorces himself and says, well, he just wasn't getting the minutes. Well, yeah, because you weren't giving them to him. You're in charge of the minutes. It wasn't like a magical thing where he wasn't getting the minutes, right? That part aside, there's some.
Yeah, if he phrased it, he wasn't earning the minutes. That's a different
different thing.
statement. Yeah.
Correct. That's a different thing. So look, I had brought up one of the things about Brink, which still hasn't gotten much better, and they got more into detail about it, was sort of like how to protect yourself out there and not put yourself in a bad spot because he's 5'8". And Torts brought that up. Like he brought up how to check, how to know a check is coming, all those things. He goes, there's 30 things. And I agree with him. There's a lot of different things you could break down in just that part of his game. Play away from the puck is always going to be the thing that in his system that gets somebody sent down if they're young. They're not strong enough away from the puck. Okay, that's fine. But again, there's some guys that just are not going to be strong enough away from the puck for their whole career too. And at some point you have to just decide if you could use their other assets or not. I mean, that's just the thing. Not everybody is perfect away from the puck. I think we all acknowledge that. But it's fine.
Right.
You send him down. He is going to take it as a demotion. There is no other way. He's 22. He's going to be 23 in July. Like, it is getting to the point where they're going to have to make a decision soon on Bobby Brink, especially if John Tortorella stays as coach. Can this guy play in his system? Like eventually that's going to be a thing.
Right. And that's where I kind of make that division, right? Exactly what you just said is that it's not that Bobby Brink isn't good or hasn't been playing
Right.
well to a large degree. It's that he doesn't necessarily fit in the system right
Right.
now. And that's fair. It happens all the time where guys
Mhm.
just aren't a fit for the team that they're currently playing for. They move to a different place that's a better fit for them and they thrive. I think that though that there's still room to for him to be the kind of guy that fits in this system and be successful. And I think they think that too, which is why they're sending him down to give him more minutes, just to clean up those other aspects of his game. And you're right in terms of the checking. I think that point was a really good one.
It was.
He get muscled away from the puck, pretty frequently, I
Yeah.
would say. And so that's just something he needs to get better at. And I think like the physicality of the AHL and the way games are played there, I think that will help him get
Mhm.
better at it. And then there's going to be a little bit more open ice for him to do what he does best as
Right.
well. And I just like, I have this fear in the pit of my stomach that this is going to turn into a Wade Allison situation, which I do not want that to happen
He's
because
got
I
a much
think,
higher skill level, but I'm with you. It
yeah,
doesn't mean it can't turn into that.
right. But that's the thing I'm holding on to here, that I know Bobby Brink is a better skilled player and that he has the ability to make the improvements that he needs to. And so I just like the lull that's invariably going to happen for him as he kind of like comes out of the days of being sent down a little bit and figuring out how to get his head right as he enters these games. At least he has a few more days before there's a game for the Phantoms, and he can get a couple practices in,
Right.
and hopefully that'll like dust some of that off before he gets into a game.
Yeah, I think so. It's just I don't expect to see Brink until after the trading deadline, and that's really only if there's injury or spots open up. Like it's
Right.
just that's kind of like I think what's going to happen now, and he may get a shot next year at the team in training camp, but you never know. You don't know what the summer trade winds are going to bring. So this may be his last chance. We don't know, but there's going to be a point where they have to decide if they're going to invest in him or not longer term.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, there's even more questions to be had, and some of them are yours, and we will get to them coming up next.
It's the halfway point in the season, Flyers fans, and the team is still in the playoff hunt. Regardless of where we are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. Fans can also play daily fantasy NFL, NBA, MLB, or college football on Sleeper, and entries can be made in under a minute. All you have to do is pick whether superstars like Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, or Austin Matthews, or your favorite Flyers like Travis Konecny will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me, Flyers fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel over on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league like Locked On NHL. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe. So, Russ, there have been some rumors flying around about potential trades for the Flyers, and the one that has been most recently serviced is, are the Flyers actually interested in Arbor Jackett?
Yeah, I called him Jack Eye. I don't even know if that's right, but yeah, I with him, what's the difference between him and Risto? Risto makes a lot more money, but they play a similar game. So I haven't heard anything. We could start there, and I'm not sure it's any kind of upgrade. So unless they were able to trade Risto, which I don't think they can, I don't know why they'd be interested.
Yeah, it just seems like the wrong direction for this team. Like, they're wanting to get more skilled. Like, why would they trade for a guy like that? If they feel like Risto is redundant on the team, that I mean, unless they're trying to dump cap money, but I just it just seems weird, and like
I mean, he's
the
a
wrong
decent player. He's not
direction.
old. It's just, yeah, I don't see the
Yeah,
fit.
yeah, I don't either. Brandon wants to know, with Cutter Gautier's departure, are there any other college prospects we could see turning pro next year?
College prospects for the Flyers or college
Hmm.
prospects? Uh, yeah, what's his name? Massimo Rizzo. Like he's going to turn pro. Is he going to turn pro with the Flyers? You hope he will. But we don't really hear his name talked about much. So, we don't even see the organization really showing off his scoring like at games. So it does make you wonder. I think, yeah, right now he's still leading the NCHC. Oh no, that was last year. He led the NCHC. I think he is still leading college hockey in scoring too, to some degree, whether it's his division, his conference, or overall. Either way, I look at it and I say they at some point need to be aggressive with him and talk with him and see. because
Right.
otherwise he could be a guy that just chooses his own path. He's having a good enough year now where he could write his own ticket as far as deciding what team he wants to go to with who's interested in him, or he could become a Flyer.
Yeah, I do think the fact that they haven't talked about him really at all, it just seems like whatever conversations they're having with him, they're not ready to, like, make any
Yeah,
predictions
because
or
next year's a
statements on that
dangerous
front.
year. Next year he becomes. It's not. Well, it's actually not this year. Sorry, he won't be. He'll only turn pro with the Flyers this year if they sign him. But next year he could be a free agent next summer.
Right,
So the
right.
turn pro part is only with the Flyers. But that's what you hope for anyhow, because I don't know if he has anything else to prove in college hockey.
Yeah. Chris Berry wants to know, related to the 11-7 discussion from Monday, speaking of Torts and his unwillingness to adjust his system for the current situation and game, what do you think will be the lifespan of his tenure as coach? He has a tendency to burn out some players and starts to lose the locker room.
One more year. I think after this year, he's mostly safe for next year, unless they were just looking bad, plummeted. You could see he didn't want to do it anymore if something like that came up. But I think one more year.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. It's just, if the team continues to be successful, unless there's like some sort of major internal revolt about him, or they're seeing that a guy like Rizzo isn't willing to sign here because of torts. Like if they're having a hard time getting free agents or prospects to sign with the team because of him directly, that's the only other reason I could see
Or if he's
letting him
asking them
go.
to add on to the team for the playoffs and they're unwilling to, he could get frustrated with that. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's just specific circumstances there.
Right.
Polar Bear 210 wanted to know, or says, I'd pair Sealer with Drysdale, where he could be the defensive consciousness and let Drysdale roam, and have Zabula anchor the third pairing with Andre or Addard. I see Drysdale and Bonk as the top two right-handed defensemen of the future, so Sandheim will move back to the left side. Does that make sense?
I think on some level it makes sense. The only thing that I don't like is now if Sealer is there when Bonk is there, that means you gave Sealer at least a 3-year contract, and I'm not sure I would have done that. But otherwise, yeah, in theory it would work out because I think a lot of that thinking is true. But I just don't know if Sealer is a part of that.
Right. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure when Bonk is going to be with the Flyers,
Right.
given where he is in his development. I think he's going to do a year in the AHL whenever he leaves junior.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of up in the air because, like, him and Andre are kind of in similar situations, I would say, as far as development path as
Yeah.
defensemen. They're in different places, but the same kind of path.
Yeah, I think there's
I
something
would
true to
say.
that. And one's an offensive guy, and one's more defensive. Although he's putting up points, so yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think because I think it's going to be hard for Andre to make the team even next year. He would have to make a big jump, but in 2 years, I think he can make the team. And Bonk is probably a year or two away from the AHL, and then maybe another year from the NHL.
Yeah, I think so as well. Finally, Cryptic Cowboy thinks that Zayde Wisdom needs to go to the Royals. What do we think?
I mean, if you want to do just to give him playing time, fine, because he's just not getting playing time. Is it great for him? No, but it would get him playing. Feel bad. I don't know what's going to happen with Zayde Wisdom anymore. And a couple years ago he was a pretty good prospect, and now the shine's off him. So I just don't know. At this point, it might not be bad to play on the Royals because he can at least get some scoring in.
Yeah, it is a mixed bag going down to the ECHL. I think that it just creates like a longer road for him,
Right.
and it may feel insurmountable going back down there again. And I would hate to see that happen,
Yeah,
but
it's good to play with them mentally. It's different for goalies because if goalies go down, it's always about playing time 99% of the time because there's just a log jam where they are, and this way they can get starts in. But with forwards, it's regular everyday players. It's a little different.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. But it's a good question, and we'll be following what the Phantoms do, especially after our discussion on yesterday's show and where we think they are. That will do it for today's show, though. Tomorrow we will preview that game against the Red Wings. We will do the prospect profile of Hunter McDonald and much more. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got mailbag questions you want us to answer, like we did today, you can send them in via Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on YouTube. I am Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great day, everyone.